Okay, I found some information on it.
Great. Look forward to the update. Doesn't have to be a long update, just a little bit of info.
Okay. I can
So
do it.
great, thanks. Chair Rice, when you're ready.
I'm ready. I don't know. Can you guys see me on? Hold on. I'm gonna leave the meeting on my computer because I'm having video issues. And it's going back and forth. So, yep, I'm ready. And we have a quorum. So I'm going to call this meeting to order at 4:31. And without further ado, virtually, if everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, that would be great. Do you love technology here? All right. Ready?
I have a flag. Okay, you got a flag.
Oh, there's the flag. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Indivisible.
Oh, indivisible. Thank you.
And Chair, the meeting officially started at 4:30 today.
Okay, perfect. All right.
May I ask Mike Liu, our IT director, to post our agenda, please? I think that would help our chair and others.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mike.
And now Economic Development Specialist Nicole will now lead the roll call.
Okay, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, starting with Chair Lynn Rice,
Here?
Commissioner Norwood,
Norwood?
Commissioner Norwood there. Okay, moving on. Commissioner McNeil.
Here.
Commissioner San Vicente,
Here.
Commissioner Awasthi,
Yeah.
Commissioner Gomez, and Commissioner Mundra.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, yep. And Alex, you said that there was a seating of alternates. We have one alternate today? Alex?
Alex, you're on mute.
My apologies. Chair Rice, you're absolutely correct. Commissioner Awathi will be moving from an alternate to a seated commissioner member today.
Okay,
Good.
Awesome.
perfect. Okay, so that goes for our seating of alternates. On to the next thing is the approval of the agenda. So would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve the Economic Development and Trade Commission meeting agenda for November 9th, 2020?
So moved. This is Casey. I second it.
Okay.
Okay, that came by so quick. So when you first or second it, could you just give your commissioner name so we can hear?
This is Commissioner McNeil.
Okay,
Move
so
for-
Commissioner McNeil approved the motion, and the second came from?
Deepak Awasthi,
But
Commissioner Awasthi.
Perfect. Okay. So all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye or nay.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
You're
All
right.
right.
This is
Yes.
the Economic Development Coordinator. Just for the record, Commissioner Norwood is present in the meeting, just so that can be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. So the next thing we're going to do is to approve the minutes, and we're going to approve a few of these here. So August 12th, 2019, November 18th, 2019, February 10th, 2020, April 24th, 2020, September 14th, 2020, and October 9th, 2020, which was Manufacturing Day. So we will now approve the following 6 meeting minutes. which we just went over. Would a commissioner like to make a motion to approve the aforementioned meeting minutes? And when the commissioner speaks, can they please speak slowly and give their name? So who would like to make a motion?
Chris Norwood, I motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 12th, November 18th, February 10th, September 14th, and October 9th.
I second the motion. Victor San Vicente seconds it.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from August 12th, November 18th, February 10th, April 24th, September 14th, and October 9th, please say aye. Those who oppose say nay.
Aye.
Okay.
Did somebody say nay? Sorry, I thought I heard someone say nay. The motion carries. Now we will have Economic Development Specialist Nicole Anani lead the public forum.
I have one raised hand for public forum, Urvish Mehta.
Good afternoon, good evening to the Economic Development Trade Commission Chair, as well as all the Commissioner, City Council, Karina Dominguez, and as well as City Staff Member Alex. I wanted to mention about the recent changes with the overpaid executive tax that has been introduced in the San Francisco City. Though the San Francisco City is considered to be a technological hub, the chief executive officers of the private companies, they have been earning 320 times more than the local employees. So I request City of Milpitas and as well as City Council member and all the commissioners to consider the overpaid executive tax to be put into for City of Milpitas in order to the City of Milpitas, a local worker, jurisdiction to implement as to provide a better and equal pay services, within the City of Milpitas. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, thank you, Urvish. That is the one and only public comment I have.
Great. So we're going to go on to announcements. So does any commissioner wish to give any updates or announcements to the commission?
I have some information. This Commissioner Mundra, I have some information on a business meeting or actually a webinar being conducted by the chamber. So it was planned for either today or November 16th via Zoom. It was free to chamber members and $10 for non-chamber members. And the idea was to see how COVID has impacted our local restaurants and the current status and predictions on the COVID crisis, how it could end, and what are the strategies that the local restaurants could consider to survive. So we're still looking to get the board approval, and the sort of webinar will be set up shortly.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. If you're not speaking, we just heard phones ringing in the background. If you could put your video, your sound on mute, that would be helpful.
Unfortunately, that was my phone. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
May I just
okay.
make a quick statement, though,
Yes.
in response to Commissioner Mundra? Just an FYI on the hot topics message that went out to the community today. The event is scheduled for next week. It sounded like the date hasn't been confirmed, so you may want to check in with the team because it's been publicized as a particular date. I think it was the 16th. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted, as the commissioner and chair, give an update for the Great Mall for those who may or may not know. We will be closed on Thanksgiving this year, and we will open on Black Friday at 6 a.m. and we'll be open till 9 p.m. Our hours changed as of October 31st. Actually, for us, it was November 1st. Previously, we had been running 11 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and then 12 to 6 on Sunday. We have gone back to our regular hours of 10 to 9 and 12 to 7 on Sunday. So the Saturday and Sunday, again, we'll be back to normal hours for that Thanksgiving weekend. And we are working very closely with the city, fire, and police to make sure that we are implementing all of the COVID safety measures that we need from a state, county, and city perspective. And then we will continue with our normal hours based on traffic, and we'll update, obviously, the community, and I'll update this commission if those hours change right before Christmas. But we are being very cognizant of the retailers to make sure that we're open the hours that make sense for them to operate their business. And then also for the community to make sure that we are operating it, again, with the COVID safety protocols in place.
Could I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is there a volume limit as to how many capacity limit as to how many shoppers you could have in that mall at any given time due to COVID?
Right now we can go up to our 100% capacity, but again, that changes, as everyone knows, depending on what color that we are in, day by day, week by week. So as far as that relating to Black Friday, it will depend on what color we're in at that point.
So every day you right now you're up to 100% capacity. Is that correct?
We are up to 100% capacity, but we have no common area, which means that we have no seating in the common area, and we have no seating in the food court.
Okay.
Until we move up to, I believe the next color is yellow, we will not have any seating out throughout the entire center.
Now, what about the social distancing? How do you handle that?
We work. We have floor stickers that are on the tiles throughout the center. We also count the amount of people that we're allowed to have inside the center, and then we work with all the retailers to make sure that they're staffing all their lines and their centers within the COVID safety protocols. They also need to, and you'll see it when you pass by their stores. They will have a county-approved COVID safety protocols that they have gone through, and that they'll have posted for the individual business as well. And most people probably know Dave & Buster's is still closed. They will not reopen until we get to yellow, most likely. And then the Legoland Discovery Center right now is looking to open of spring of 2021. We do have a few new stores that have opened. We have Volcom, Swarovski, Crystals, and we also have Torrid, which is a plus-size women's store that have opened post our closure, so post-COVID.
Okay, that sounds good. So they're an upscale store, actually. Crystals.
Yes.
They're very upscale, actually. Yeah.
Yep. Unfortunately, we did lose Neiman Marcus last call, but that wasn't just us. That was a matter of that retailer actually went bankrupt. So unfortunately, we do it well. I shouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately, we have a temporary backfill for it, and we're working on some replacements for it right now that we hope to announce after the first of the year.
So did Sikorsky take the Neiman Marcus place, or what?
No, they took, now I'm blanking on what space they took. It's over by, it's actually near Burlington store.
Okay.
And I can announce too that at entrance 2, we have a new retailer who's starting to build out. So we have Sephora coming to Great Mall, and they will open in 2021.
What's the name of that retailer?
Sephora.
Sephora. Okay. Yeah.
Sephora. Yeah, which will be a big deal for the center.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other commissioners wish to give an update? Does city staff wish to give any updates and announcements?
Chair Rice, we actually do. We're going to move things along pretty quickly since we have a lot on the agenda. But I think we should go to our council member first to see if Councilmember Dominguez has anything to share.
Great.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of this as we go into the end of the year. Could you believe that? We're heading into December, it feels like already, right? I hope you guys definitely take in November and just enjoy the holidays. On a council side, there's been a lot of changes and a lot of things moving very drastically due to COVID-19. First and foremost, just making sure that we are keeping our community safe and that we are following the county protocols, at the same time being very supportive to our businesses. Personally, I have been going out to our small business community and our businesses, just checking in with them. Alex has been amazing in helping address some of their concerns, and even safety concerns have been brought up to our attention due to the outdoor dining in our community, which we've been able to work with them. So if you have any questions that come by your desk, please feel free to send them my way or to Alex, because he has been really great with his staff team. In terms of a council perspective, you'll find some of the updates in the business items that are scheduled in the agenda. I do believe that there will be some other things maybe coming up through council, but at this time I can't think of any other than an item that is already scheduled, but we haven't been able to get to it. And this is regarding the rents on businesses, on commercials, that commercial businesses could have. And so we are exploring one of the needs that the small businesses and business community have brought up to my attention is this possibility of freezing the rents on commercial spaces due to COVID-19. As many of you know, not many those small businesses are being heavily impacted since they haven't been able to create the same revenue to withstand the rents that they have to pay in the commercial spaces. They still have to pay and they would still be responsible, but we are exploring to see if there's any way we could at least pause the increase in rents. What we have found is that some commercial spaces are still increasing the rents, that 3.8%, the legal percentage within that year. And so I am exploring to see if we could at least just pause it until a further time. And so that is something that if you have any suggestions or feedback, please send it my way. It is scheduled for tomorrow, but we have a pretty lengthy agenda tomorrow. I don't think we'll get to it. I think we will get to it at the next council meeting. Other than that, those are all my announcements.
Thank you, Councilmember Dominguez. That's I think going to be very helpful, for those small business owners, but also for the economy. So I think that that's a great initiative. Okay, are there any other announcements before we go on to business items, the election of officers?
Yes, Chair. Staff has several announcements.
Perfect.
We'll make it quick. I'll just give you a brief announcement on our unemployment rate and a hotel white paper document. We'll have Margaret Tamasia give a brief update on the manufacturing day that happened on October 9th. And then Nicole Inamin will provide an update on Spotlight. So why don't I just go ahead on the unemployment rate. As you all know, the unemployment rate is the proportion of unemployed persons in the labor market. And it's really important for us. It's an important indicator of the health of the economy. For many years, Milpitas's unemployment rate was at 3% or sub 3%, mostly because it's tied to the technology sector being the economic engine of Silicon Valley. But of course, during the pandemic, things have changed dramatically. There's absolutely no parallel to what the business community is experiencing. And so in April of this year, the Milpitas unemployment rate dramatically increased to almost 13%, 12.9%. And again, it was due to the fact that the county enacted the shelter-in-place order to protect public health and safety. I'm pleased to announce, though, that in the last few months, Milpitas's unemployment rate has been decreasing. So in July, it was decreasing to 10.6%. In August, it continued to decrease to 8.2%. And then the most recent number that we have for September is 7.9%. The numbers for October should be out soon, so we'll keep you in the loop in that respect. The next update has to do with the Office of Economic Development, working on really a regional effort. We are partnering with the City of Campbell, the Silicon Valley Economic Development Alliance, and the Santa Clara County Economic Recovery Support Function Team on a regional hotel industry white paper. And we're focusing on ensuring that we can proceed with research on advocacy, support, and strengthening the relationships between the hotel and travel industry leaders, as well as policymakers and public officials. So the end result will be 2 different strategies and guidelines, one specifically for the hotel and travel industries, and then the other one specifically for policymakers and public sector officials. This is not specifically for Milpitas. We're looking at this from a regional Silicon Valley perspective. So we look forward to giving you an update at our next meeting. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Margaret to give you a very brief update on Manufacturing Day, and then after that, Nicole Inamine on Spotlight. Thank you.
Good evening. This is Margaret Tamasia. So I wanted to just thank the Commission for their support for the 4th Annual Manufacturing Day. We held Manufacturing Day on Friday, October 9th, and we had a very successful virtual event, which is not that easy to pull off. We were able to have over 300 people attend the event. And due to the fantastic job that our moderator did, Commissioner Chris Norwood, we had a lot of excitement and engagement from young people, from middle school and high school students from Milpitas, who stayed on and asked lots of questions about how they too can have futures in manufacturing. And so I want to thank everyone who attended, specifically our moderator, Chris Norwood, and also our panelist, Casey McNeil. Thank you.
Okay, I can go next. So I'll be giving a brief update on the Milpitas Small Business Spotlight Program. I think the last update you may have received was that there was a lottery event that selected 15 small businesses to bring into the spotlight. Those 15 businesses are representing a diverse sectors of Milpitas. We have medical offices, daycares, beauty salons, and more. And so each of these 15 businesses will be working with our videographer, Bill Rowland, and they will work to create a 90-second promotional video to market their business and their services. Hopefully this will kind of help our small business community through the pandemic. And the first batch will focus on the Montessori schools, AJR Watch Repair, and eShare Diagnostics. Bill Rowland will be spending 2 days in Milpitas this weekend to work with those, and soon after that, we'll be working to highlight Beau's Jour, Beauty Salon, Rainbow Childhood Development Center, and Prisha Pediatrics. They will be our second group to start producing their professional videos. And
Great.
back to
Hey, Rice,
Thank you.
if I may, just a
Yes.
quick reminder here. We obviously are functioning from a very virtual perspective, and we're following the city council model of ensuring that the chair calls everyone out for a oral roll call. So when we go into a motion and people vote, perhaps you can look at your screen and call each person out so that we can see and hear that particular individual. And if you need help with that, we can have Nicole help in that respect, if that's easier for you.
Yes, because I'm doing
Okay.
this on my iPhone. If she could do that, that would be great. Just because, again, I'm doing it on my iPhone. My laptop's having some technical issues with the camera. So
Understood. We'll have
Yes.
Nicole help in that respect. Okay, so our staff updates are complete.
perfect. Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to the next business item, which is the election of officers. I just wanted to give everyone a background. Once per year, commissioners will vote to elect a chair and vice chair of the commission. The chair is responsible for leading the regular meetings of the commission. The chair shall call the meeting to order, state items to be discussed on the agenda, permit all members with the opportunity to be heard, allow for comments from the public, call for a vote when required, and work directly with staff liaisons to ensure a successful meeting. The vice chair shall serve the role of the chair. In the absence of the chair, no commissioner shall serve more than 3 years as the chair or vice chair of any Milpitas commission. So I wanted to go ahead and make a recommendation to elect a chair and vice chair of the Economic Development and Trade Commission.
If I may, Chair, I'd like to
Yes.
share a little bit more background.
Perfect.
We have some newer commissioners, so I think it'd be important just to continue to provide that background from a bylaws and handbook perspective as we talk about the Economic Development and Trade Commission membership. So if I may, I'd like to just spend a minute or two.
Absolutely, yes.
Great. Okay. So the Economic Development and Trade Commission was originally established by the City Council back in February of 2003. The commission advises the council on business issues. They cultivate international trade relationships and make recommendations on the design, development, and implementation of economic development in the city of Milpitas. So members of the commission represent the Chamber of Commerce. We have different categories. So these members represent the Chamber of Commerce, the Milpitas Unified School District, Technology and Trade, real estate. We have a resident who's a member, and then we have different business representatives from retail, restaurant, hotel, and commercial. Now we are down to commissioners at this point. We're supposed to have a total of 7 commissioners and 2 alternate members. They are all appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. So every year, once per year, commissioner members will vote to elect a chair and a vice chair. And so voting members are limited to 1 vote per officer. City staff will ask, or our chair will ask for nominations for a chair and vice chair, and then we will proceed as such. So Chair Rice, if you'd like to start with the chair elections, that's fine. If you want to start with the vice chair elections, that's fine as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Could you also inform us how long Commissioner Rice has been in this position and Commissioner Norwood?
Yes, I can start with Chair Rice. Chair Rice became the chair on May 14th of 2018. I'm going to look to my colleague Daniel Dagu, or perhaps our Vice Chair Norwood, to respond with how long they've been a member of the commission, as well as how long they've been a member or an officer. And I believe that our vice chair became vice chair sometime this year, at the beginning of the year.
Hi, Alex.
Yes.
And members of the commission, just to clarify on that question. So we currently do not have a vice chair for this commission. One was appointed in May at the same time we had Chair Rice appointed for the chair spot. The person that was previously serving as our vice chair was Jeffrey Chen from the Embassy Suites. He ended up resigning due to relocation of his new position in Dallas, Texas, and that created a vacancy for the vice chair. As to what the commissioner was referring to about having Commissioner Norwood serve as our chair, he is the longest tenured commissioner on EDTC. So if the chair is not present, then the individual who would be serving in that role of leading the meeting would be the longest tenured person, which would be Commissioner Norwood. And that's why we have seen that happen in previous meetings. So I just wanted to provide a little clarification on that.
Thank you, Daniel.
I thought we had actually voted for Commissioner Norwood as vice chairman.
I think we did as well. Daniel, I think it was a meeting that you were not present at, and it was at the beginning of the year or sometime before our shelter-in-place order. Is that what you remember?
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah. Is Commissioner Norwood eligible to be a chair this time around?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to suggest or put a motion for Commissioner Norwood to be the next chair if we need to have a new chair.
Okay, why don't we start, because we're going to have Nicole, I think, track some of this stuff. So why don't we go ahead then and start with the chair position, Alex? Okay, so I'll go first. I will actually nominate Chris Norwood to be the chair.
Okay, I second that because that was I was about to suggest that. So I second that motion.
Well, I think we're just doing nominees right now, so we'll
Oh,
just
okay.
nominate.
Oh, okay, just
Yeah.
nominees?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay. I didn't know.
So Alex, so is Nicole going to call each person individually, or did you want me to do that?
No, she will. Nicole, are you
Okay.
on? You might be muted.
I am. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see then. Commissioner Norwood, would you like to nominate anybody for the position of chair?
No.
No? Okay. Moving on to Commissioner McNeil, who would you like to nominate?
I think Commissioner Norwood is a good nomination, so I have no one else to nominate.
Okay. Commissioner San Vicente, I believe you had just nominated Commissioner Norwood as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Mundra, would you like to nominate anybody?
I will also go with Chris Norwood.
Okay. And lastly, I have Commissioner Aswati. Would you like to nominate anybody?
Chris Norwood is the best.
Okay. So for the position of chair, we have one nomination, Commissioner Norwood.
Okay.
Commissioner Norwood, you,
I'm not going to
right,
bring
go
my
ahead.
Star Trek background. That's what it is. I'm not going to show my Star Trek background next time. I'll get that.
Commander in Chief. So
Okay.
Chair Rice, you can now start the voting process or have Nicole help with calling. For somebody needs to make, well, the motion has been made. Well, the nominations
Yes.
have been made. Now somebody needs to make a motion and a second, and then we would vote.
Okay, so should we do the vice chair or just get the chair voted and
Let's finish the
approved?
chair.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion for Commissioner Norwood to for the
Commissioner
I guess-
McNeil, motion.
Would somebody like to second the motion?
I can second them. This is Commissioner Awasthi.
Right. All those in favor?
Well,
Say-
excuse me,
go ahead.
Chair
Yes?
Rice. We'll
Yes?
have Nicole call each member,
Oh,
and then
gotcha. Okay,
they'll vote.
perfect. Okay,
So starting with you, Chair Lynn Rice.
yay.
Yay. Going on to Commissioner Norwood. Oh, you're muted,
muted.
Commissioner Norwood.
Yeah, abstain.
Abstain. Commissioner McNeil,
Yes.
Commissioner San Vicente, sorry, I didn't catch that. What was that, Commissioner?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Commissioner Mundra
Yes.
and Commissioner Aswati.
Yeah, it's a yes.
Okay, motion passes.
And just for the record, that's 5 yes votes and 1 abstention.
Great.
That's correct.
Now we're going to nominate a vice chair of the Economic Development and Trade Commission. Nicole, I'm going to pass on nominating.
Okay. Commissioner Norwood, would you like to nominate anyone for vice chair?
Who would like to be the vice chair? So I can nominate.
I will nominate Commissioner Mundra.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I
Well, I was gonna nominate you.
Oh,
So I think the best choices would be you or Deepak. That would be very helpful.
I think you have more experience. We
Uh,
would go with you. Casey is right.
Boy, that's gonna be tough.
So I just want to clarify, Commissioner McNeil, you nominated Commissioner Mundra, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and then Commissioner Mundra nominated Commissioners McNeil
Yes,
and Commissioner Aswati.
yes,
Yes. And Commissioner Aswati nominated Commissioner Mundra.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then, okay, so we're at the end of the list. So I have 3 nominees, Commissioners Mundra, McNeil, and Aswati for the position of Vice Chair. I'll go ahead and ask, Commissioner Mundra, do you accept this nomination?
I would prefer that my other team members please accept, because there are some things I'm trying to finish off with the chamber. The things are going very well, and it's critical that we achieve a level of accomplishment there.
Nicole
Okay.
and Chair Rice, if I may,
Mhm.
just want
Yes.
to inform and remind people that the only eligible commissioners are the regular members. Alternates are not. That means that although Commissioner Awathi is seated today, he is not eligible to be
Oh,
an officer at this time.
All
Okay,
right.
so that would just then leave Commissioner Mundra, correct?
Or Commissioner McNeil.
Or Commissioner McNeil, yes.
So what I'm hearing, Commissioner Mundra, is you would like to deny the nomination and defer to Commissioner McNeil?
yes,
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner McNeil, will you accept the nomination?
Yes, I will.
thank you.
Okay,
Well,
great. And now we'll move on to vote. Chair Rice, could you please ask for a motion in a second?
Yes, that's what I was just gonna, I guess we just have one. So would somebody like to make a motion for Commissioner McNeil, sorry, to, I guess, for the position of Vice Chair? When we do roll call, if you're in favor, say yay. If you're not, say no. So,
Okay. I will start with Commissioner Rice.
yay.
And now Chair Norwood.
Yay.
Commissioner McNeil.
in keeping with tradition, I will abstain.
Commissioner San Vicente.
Can't hear you, Victor.
Yeah, could you hear me? Yeah. Could you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you hear me?
Yes.
I have to get closer to my, yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner Mundra
Yay,
and Commissioner Aswati.
Yeah.
Perfect. The motion carries. That's 5 yeses and 1 abstain to have Commissioner McNeil serve as Vice Chair of the Commission.
awesome.
Thank you.
So at this point, we would ask that our outgoing chair ask our
Commissioner
new
McNeil.
chair, Chair Norwood, if he would like to begin his responsibilities right now, so we could move things over to him immediately.
Chair Norwood, would you like to continue as, or I should say, start your position as chair and continue to lead the meeting?
Yes, unless you want to finish out today.
I'm fine. No, I'm very happy to hand it over to you.
All right.
And that is the tradition.
Yes.
Okay, let's get it. I'll gladly accept. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so we are on item 9B with the microenterprise grant program.
Awesome. Item 9B, microenterprise grant program. Alex Andrade.
Thank you, Chair Norwood. And thank you, outgoing Chair Rice. You've done an amazing job for the last year plus. So just want to say thank you on behalf of staff.
Yeah.
This particular item is a real important one. As you know, we have been in the shelter in place era, the pandemic era for the last 8 months. And as I mentioned earlier, there's just no parallel to what became a health crisis and immediately evolved into an economic crisis. Our business community, like the regional, statewide, national business community, has been suffering quite a bit and just trying to stay afloat and stay viable. Thankfully, our city council immediately in March established what became known as the Small Business Assistance Subcommittee. And it was made up of Councilmember Karina Dominguez and Councilmember Carmen Montano, who became the chair. And they immediately started working with staff as to how we could help the small business community in particular. And there were several actions and several asks for how we could help the small business community. But the one that was probably the most important had to do with financial relief. And so our Small Business Assistance Subcommittee, again, led by our council liaison, Councilmember Dominguez and Chair Montano, they took to council back in June a program that was going to be a loan program for small businesses, utilizing $200,000 of CDBG funds, which is Community Development Block Grant dollars. And we worked with and have been working with Enterprise Foundation as the fiscal agent. We recognized early on that a loan program was going to be quite challenging. And although it certainly had its benefits of trying to develop a revolving loan fund, it also had some challenges. And so we went back to council in early August and proposed that we proceed away from a loan program into a grant program. And we recognize that these businesses didn't want to take on any additional debt. And so the grant program was really the best way of proceeding. So the program is $200,000, $10,000 of the $200,000 goes to administration fees, again, by Enterprise Foundation, which leaves $190,000. The result will be 38 micro-enterprise businesses receiving $5,000 grants, of which many of these grantees have received funding. One of the more important components of all of this is an evaluation of the program. So we've partnered with Delan Chan of Stanford University, who may be with us this evening. She leads a program through Urban Studies that's an amazing course and program altogether, having to do with designing and just building great communities and inclusive communities. Anyway, we are partnering with a Stanford student cohort on this evaluation. And so what I'm doing now is just giving you kind of the lay of the land and setting the stage for this presentation that the Stanford students will be giving you now. So with that, I'd like to ask Director Mike Liu to put up the presentation, and there it is. So I'm going to look to our laudable Stanford University team to start their presentation. Please unmute yourselves. And when you go to the next item, just say next slide, please. With that, I'm going to hand it over to you all.
Hey, I'm Theo. I'm a freshman at Stanford, and over the past 2 months, alongside Fiona, Javi, Maddie, Sophia, and Tiffany, fellow classmates of mine that are on this call, we've been collaborating with Alex from the Department of Economic Development. And this fall, as Alex just mentioned, the department conducted a microenterprise grant program in order to help small businesses coping with the effects of COVID-19. And we were tasked to create a report examining its effectiveness and possible next steps. And since our collaboration began, we surveyed all of the grant recipients, from hairdressers to video producers to restaurants. We interviewed 5 of them, and we conducted a geospatial analysis of the recipients across the city. And the answers we received, the stories we heard, and finds we made represent the diversity of the city and the economic hardship small businesses have faced throughout 2020. Over the course of this presentation, we'd like to share some with you. So our presentation will cover 5 aspects of a report. Next slide, please. Next slide when you can get a chance would be great. Great. So the five aspects are the economic context of the grant, our project's background, our survey findings, our interview findings, and the spatial analysis we conducted. So next you'll be hearing from my classmate Javi, who will discuss the economic context of the grant. Javi?
Thank you, Theo. So first, we're going to dive into how COVID has impacted the Milpitas economy as well as its businesses in such a way that has led for the need for this grant program to be developed. Next, perfect. We'll first look into the unemployment rate in Milpitas, as Alex mentioned previously. In previous years, Milpitas has registered sub 3 to 3% unemployment rates. Once the pandemic began to affect California and the shelter in place was set in motion in Santa Clara County, Milpitas saw a peak from 3.2% in March to the high during this pandemic of 12.9 in April of 2020. Since April, this unemployment rate has been steadily decreasing, and the last reported value was of 7.9% in September of 2020. While the trend is trending positively, there's still some space to drop all the way back to the sub 3 to 3% unemployment rates that we saw before the pandemic. Next slide, please. Additionally, in order to understand how businesses were affected and how they were forced to respond due to the shelter in place, the Office of Economic Development conducted a survey early on in the pandemic on April 2nd, 2020, in order to understand how these businesses were affected. 173 businesses in Milpitas responded to this survey, and the following are the results from this survey. Next slide, please. So on the left side, we can see how business hours were affected, and we can see of the respondents, around 50% had to close completely. And again, when I say close completely, this refers to non-essential businesses that did not have operating business hours, not that they had to completely close their business. And in the middle, we see that around 37% of the respondents declared more than $50,000 in revenue loss during these first months of the pandemic and the shelter in place. So the loss of business hours caused the revenue loss and required or pushed for these businesses to look for financial assistance, primarily looking into the spaces of rent, wages, utilities, and insurance. A lot of these can't be reduced in costs unless the business closes completely or people are let go, which is why we see the unemployment rate so high. And this financial assistance has led to the development of the grant program that Tiffany will be discussing right now. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Javi. So I'll be talking a little bit more about the project. I know Alex briefly introduced it, but I'll mention some additional details. Next slide, please. So the Microenterprise Grant Program, as Alex mentioned, was created this past August by the Milpitas City Council in order to help microenterprises through this economic crisis. The grant money comes from Federal Community Development Block Grant or CDBG funds. And as such, these funds are required to benefit low and moderate income individuals. Next slide, please. So in order to ensure that that was the case, the program has a number of eligibility requirements for businesses to be able to receive the funds. First and foremost, only micro enterprises are eligible for the funds. And micro enterprises are very, very tiny businesses that only employ 1 to 5 people. Unfortunately, that does leave a lot of businesses uncovered by the program, like small businesses and medium-sized businesses. But unfortunately, that was just necessary in order to allow the funds to be used. Additionally, one of the requirements is that the business has to have been in Milpitas for at least the past 3 years, and that ensures that those benefiting from the grants have had a long-term presence in the city. The microenterprise receiving the grant must be classified as retail, restaurant, or service sector, or alternately be a mom and pop, that is to say family-owned, family-operated business. And finally, the business recipient must not have exceeded $2 million in net adjusted income in calendar years 2018 and 2019. There are a few other requirements, but those I think are the main ones to know. Next slide, please. Some additional details, as Alex mentioned, each grant is $5,000, and the intended grant use is for rent and mortgage, payroll, and operating expenses. Additionally, everyone who applies to the grant is eligible for free technical assistance, that is to say business assistance, assistance with marketing, capital, and so on, through the Silicon Valley Small Business Development Center. The opportunity was promoted over the course of a few weeks through a variety of mediums, and there was a 1-week window for applications in mid-August. As Alex mentioned, the funds are administered by the Enterprise Foundation, and 38 microenterprises have been selected for grants. And pretty much everyone has picked up their checks by this point. And now, after that, we conducted a survey as well as some interviews to understand how businesses are using these funds and how generally they're doing during this recession. And Fiona will talk a little bit more about the survey results. Next slide, please.
Hi, thank you, Tiffany. Yeah, so we dispersed a survey to the grant recipients to see and gauge the efficacy of the grants so far and what they've been used for. Next slide, please. So first we looked into kind of the demographics of the people who are receiving these grants. We asked them to identify themselves either as a minority-owned, immigrant-owned, or a mom and pop business. And so we see that the vast majority of the people who had responded to our survey, nearly 70% are minority or immigrant-owned business owner, or are owners of minority or immigrant-owned businesses. And also a minority of 16% of those businesses don't actually fit any of the descriptors that we offered. Yeah. Next slide, please. So we also gauged how the grant money would actually be used by the recipients. We see that about 30% of businesses indicated that the grant was not enough to cover their need. Pulling from what Javi said earlier, we see that a vast amount of deficit was resulting from this pandemic. And so we see that for the respondents that needed more grant funds, they explained that the ideal amount of assistance would have been at least $10,000. And then also we saw that 9 respondents noted that if they were going to be using the grant for rent or mortgage payments, we saw that 6 of those 9 respondents spent 80% to 100% of the grant on rent and mortgage alone. So we see that even though this grant money has very specific uses dedicated to it, many business owners actually used it exclusively for rent, or at least entirely for rent. Next slide, please. All right, and so we also asked businesses how long they had been shut down during the course of the pandemic. We see that around 1 respondent said that they still had not reopened, but the vast majority of businesses have had to be shut down for a variety of months, a third of which were shut down for 3 months or less, 22%, 3 to 5 months, and also nearly 40% were shut down for 5 to 8 months, just to see exactly how this pandemic has impacted them. Next slide, please. So we also wanted to gauge exactly how businesses were utilizing technical assistance, which is offered through the Silicon Valley Small Business Development Center. And so we saw that a vast majority of respondents were aware of the technical assistance, but did not use it. A couple were also not aware of the technical assistance at all. Of the survey respondents, 2 said that they had used the assistance, and it was particularly helpful with figuring out concepts surrounding marketing and also cost accounting and pricing. As for businesses' futures, we also asked whether businesses knew that they were going to be, their owners would be retiring in the next 5 years. And out of the 7 businesses whose owners plan to retire, only 1 knows who will exactly be replacing the owner of that business. Just to give you a sense of kind of the continuity and the future of these Milpitas businesses. Next slide. Finally, we were wondering exactly what additional assistance businesses might be seeking in addition to financial assistance. So we saw that owners were particularly interested in types of guidance that might even be covered within the technical assistance that is already offered. For example, they're looking into seeking more financial assistance, such as this grant program, coping with fewer staff, strategizing around marketing, as well as planning for their financial situations in the future. And so perhaps this is leading us to believe that there's a bit of a disconnect between the offerings of technical assistance for these micro enterprises and their actual willingness or ability to access the technical assistance, since they've posited these needs that could be covered by the technical assistance that's already offered. And next, we'll be going into the findings from our interviews.
Thank you, Fiona. So for the interviews, we kind of wanted to just get a more in-depth understanding of some of the questions that we asked on the survey. Next slide, please. So we were able to interview 5 businesses. They were around 30 minutes each, and 4 of those interviews were conducted on Zoom. 1 was just done as a phone call. And then the types of things that we were asking were to kind of explain what things have been looking like for their business during COVID, to share some thoughts on the grant, and then if applicable, if they were in business in 2008, to kind of compare right now to the 2008 recession. Next slide, please. So first off, adapting to COVID and also the challenges of it, rent was definitely the hardest component to cover, as revenues were down to less than 50% of what many were making prior to COVID. Many also had to let employees go as they couldn't afford to pay them anymore. And then they also had to reduce their own hours as well as the store hours, as demand is just not up to its usual amounts. And the next slide, please. And then, so this quote comes from an independent hairstylist who really struggled to open up again as guidelines were changing often, and she had to invest in safety equipment to keep herself and her clients safe. She really didn't know if buying all the equipment would be worth it, as she might be told to close down again in the next day, but she still is also having to cover her full rent price for a studio that she can't even use. Next slide, please. So some thoughts on the grant. Everyone was extremely, extremely grateful and appreciative, and definitely wanted to share that with us when we were interviewing them. Of course, they did wish that it could be more than $5,000, as Fiona noted from the survey findings, because this couldn't even cover 1 month's loss of revenue, but still they were very grateful. So next slide, please. So these quotes are just some accounts of business owners having sincere thanks to the city of Milpitas for providing them with the grant. Next slide, please. And then finally, with the 2008 recession comparison, these business owners noted that the recession was very hard, but it is nothing compared to COVID. COVID is kind of a whole new animal to them, in the sense that they have no idea when it will be ending. And the recession was more just a loss of business, but the pandemic has created a loss of business, as well as forcing business owners to kind of evolve their ways of selling or providing services that have cost extra money and taken extra time to do. And then those with physical stores also had to worry about being compliant to keep everyone safe, so that bore additional costs as well. Next slide, please. And so the first half of this next quote is in reference to 2008. This business owner lost 15% of her revenues during that time, but now she is dealing with a 50% loss. And so you can kind of see that significant difference between the two. And then next slide, please. Now we'll be moving over to Maddie with the spatial analysis, so you can kind of see all that we've talked about on the map.
Hi, everyone. Next slide, please. So this first map is just to orient you as to where businesses are located. So most of the businesses are spread relatively evenly throughout Milpitas. However, there are small clusters of grant recipients sort of around the intersection of Landis Avenue and South Park Victoria Drive, around the intersection of Dixon Landing Road and North Milpitas Boulevard, and around the west side of the city along South Able and South Main Streets. Next slide, please. So for this spatial analysis, I use census data and tiger shapefiles in ArcGIS to compare and contrast the demographics around businesses in 2008 and 2019. So yeah, just a reminder that the data on demographic effects of COVID-19 is not yet available publicly. So many of these values are actually likely to change. The businesses that were selected to receive microenterprise grants are plotted according to their coordinate locations, and we have drawn a buffer with a half-mile radius around each business, which allows us to consider the geographic context around each one. Next slide, please. So this first set of maps shows median household income. For each of the following slides, 2008 will appear on the left and 2019 will appear on the right. The lowest values for median income are the lightest shade of purple. The highest values are the blue color. So just some observations. For the majority of census tracts containing grant recipients, median household income increased by about $15,000 on average from 2008 to 2019. And for the census tracts containing businesses clustered around South Able Street and South Main Street and East Calaveras Boulevard, this increase appears particularly large. Next slide, please. So this is unemployment rates. The lowest unemployment rates appear as the lightest shade of pink, and the highest rates are the darkest shade of red. In general, there are more census tracts in 2018 that have an unemployment rate of 0% compared to 2008, which makes a lot of sense given the effects of the recession on unemployment in Milpitas and throughout the country. Many of these census tracts that fall within the half-mile radius experienced no change in unemployment rate or else experienced a decrease in unemployment. However, in the northeast region of the city, you can see that several census tracts actually experienced an increase in unemployment. And we can't really account for this change yet. Next slide, please. Categorical variables like race are a little difficult to represent on maps. Therefore, we made the decision to make two separate sets of maps, one showing the percentage of white residents in each census tract, and the other showing the percentage of Asian residents. So this first set of maps shows the percentage of white residents. The highest percentage is shown in the lightest shade of blue, and the lowest percentage is shown as the darker blue. Overall, the white population as a proportion of total population has decreased throughout Milpitas from 2008 to 2019. And for the majority of businesses, the percentage of white residents within a half-mile buffer is between 10 and 25%. Next slide, please. This next set of maps shows the percentage of Asian residents. Dark green corresponds to the highest percentage, and light green corresponds with the lowest. Overall, the Asian population in Milpitas increased from 2008 to 2019. In fact, the smallest proportion of Asian residents living in a census tract increased from 10.1% to 20.2% from 2008 to 2019. The census tracts with the highest proportion of Asian residents appear in the north and the northeast areas of the city. However, we found no particular pattern in the way that Asian population has increased around the grant recipients. Next slide, please. I just want to thank you so much for listening. That concludes our presentation.
So if I could, Chair Norwood, just quickly say thank you to Theo, Javi, Tiffany, Fiona, Sophia, and Maddie. We may also have Deland and Gabby on. So I just want to say thank you to all of them. They did a great job on the presentation. This is a time for you commissioners, Councilmember Dominguez, and anybody else who's interested to ask questions about the program evaluation directly to our Stanford students and our Stanford student partners, or to staff. So with that, I hand it over to Chair Norwood.
Thank you. Yes, the floor is now open up for questions. Yes, Indrajit.
Could you hear me?
Yes. I want to hear you, Victor.
Could you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Victor.
Okay, good, thanks. Yeah, I wanted to know, one, is this available, this presentation, is it available for us? Could you send it by a PDF file? Is this presentation, could we ask for a copy of this presentation?
Yeah, yes, you can.
Okay, okay. And the other thing,
we are generating a report that will be more descriptive than the presentation that we can also send along when it is done, and that should be done in around 2 weeks' time.
Oh, great.
And if I can add to what Theo just said, Deland Chan is inviting you all to view what I think is November 18th's presentation. And so the class itself has 4 or 5 different projects. And so I'll follow up with providing not only the PowerPoint presentation to you all, but the invitation, and hopefully you'll have time to join us then.
Oh, one more question. uh, did you do any evaluation on restaurants, especially small family-owned restaurants? Hello?
So actually, we didn't have very many restaurants a part of the grant. There were a couple, but they were not open to being interviewed.
Oh, okay, because there are a lot of family-owned restaurants who may have fallen into that category.
Since the grant is for micro enterprises, which only employ 1 through 5 people, I think many restaurants employ many more people than that, which I think was also a reason that I think the list of grantees ultimately didn't include very many restaurants. But we're definitely aware that restaurants have suffered a disproportionate impact of COVID, and do wish that we could have been able to evaluate that too.
Thank you.
So I have a couple of questions. First of all, this is really pretty impressive. And I think this is a real mathematical challenge that you guys did very well on, because with such sparse data, to make some valid interpretations out of it is very difficult. And I think you put many facets on this data, so thank you for that. So the question I have for you is, you didn't make any forward-looking statements as to, and it would require some kind of knowledge, how a disease works and, what the timelines would be, how it spreads in populations. And, that's difficult because, like you said, it was not available yet. So with the spike that we've had in the last few days, where we've gone from 20, 30,000 new cases per day to 130,000 per day, it takes the curve of, the settling down and trying to get back to normalcy further out. Does anybody have some kind of a feel for what are we looking at time-wise, looking forward to seeing where things will, be bearable? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I can't answer to it directly, but I can say that at least with the businesses that we surveyed, when we were gauging their need and how much this grant had actually helped them towards their goals, a vast majority, maybe like more than 20 businesses that had answered, had said something along the lines of the grant had met their needs. And so of the people where the grant had, or maybe not 20, perhaps I'm thinking of that number wrong, more like 16 businesses that had answered basically saying that the grant had met their needs. And of the people for which it hadn't, we mention again that they would have preferred having a grant near the amount of 10,000. But for actually the majority of grant recipients, this was hopefully enough just to curb some expenses for the time being. As for the trajectory, I'm not sure if anyone else on my team has something to add to that, but I just wanted to add that from the survey results.
Thank you.
I can also add, let's let the Stanford students go first.
I'll just say I'm actually working on a different project on small businesses under COVID-19, and I've done some reading of national studies, and like the most harmful time period of the pandemic were the first few months when people had to shut down and weren't allowed to open unless they were essential businesses. And so as long as we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have to shut down completely, which who knows if that's going to happen, I think that businesses may be able to survive.
You mean the businesses who already survived, they'll be able to continue? Is that what you meant?
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Maddie, thank you. If I can just add, that, and perhaps Councilmember Dominguez was on this call earlier today, or press conference, watching the press conference, but Santa Clara County Chair Cindy Chavez and Dr. Cody of the Santa Clara County Public Health Department talked about where we are today, and we're trending in the wrong direction. We are seeing spikes, especially young adults in the ages of 18 to 34, with special attention to 25 to 29-year-olds in areas around the east side of San Jose and Gilroy communities. I think what's happening here of real concern is that they reported today 40% of those that have coronavirus most recently that have been testing positive, 40% of those do not have any symptoms. They're asymptomatic. And so many of these individuals obviously maybe going about their business and don't know that they are in fact perhaps harming not only their own family, but other people in public. So the message today was that each one of us each day has to really take responsibility as to how we interact and how we ensure to try to decrease what has been a spike, not only nationally, but we're seeing it locally throughout Santa Clara County. So there's real concern, which is why this press conference happened today. It wasn't planned. I don't know if Councilmember Dominguez participated or was part of it, but if she'd like to add anything, it's a good time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex, for that. Absolutely. I actually have been on two really important calls in the last couple of weeks. I was on a call with Dr. Fauci as well as Dr. Cody maybe 2 weeks ago, where they explained and went into further about what this COVID-19 fatigue and how we are really seeing it in everyone, but it's particularly seen in the younger folks who are could display asymptomatic symptoms and they're not getting tested. And so that is why it's so important for us to get tested at least once every 3 weeks, especially if you're working around people or in the public sector or you're around children. The other thing that they explained in our call this morning is that the county made it very clear that if these numbers, the surge that we're seeing is very similar to the surge that we saw late March and April. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we are technically could go back to where we were in March. And that is where we went into where I saw the data that was displayed today that really hurt our business community because they were in complete shutdown. And so the message is clear that we need to continue with social distancing, but we now need to make sure that we're all getting tested, especially if you're in that age range between 18 to 34, 25 and 29, because that is the age range that, again, is showing these asymptomatic symptoms, but unfortunately, the only way it gets caught is by testing. And so luckily in the city of Milpitas, we're continuing with our free testing sites. And that is a message that all of us could support because unfortunately, we are still in a vulnerable state if we do not work together and we do not rise up to the call of action that was given by the county today, which was we need to continue practice social distancing. Let's not let COVID fatigue get to us. And we could rise above this, but we're definitely in a momentum of it's going to take all of us. And we definitely, based on the information, thank you so much. I definitely will be in attendance on the 18th, so please send me that information so I could take some time off work and ensure that I am there. I want to tell you how this information is so helpful. We know that the census numbers are going to change. But that census information is really important to me as an elected official because it tells me part of the story of what is happening in our city and the trends that we're seeing. In particular with our micro enterprise businesses. These are the businesses that would probably not seek assistance from the city. And for me, that is something very valuable. The quotes and the story is really important to me because I've been going out to those who have the awardees, and most of them have said, I would have never reached out to the city if I wouldn't have heard of this program. And so that's really important to me as an elected member, is that engagement component. And so thank you all to all of you for doing this work that really helps leverage the work that we're all doing and hopefully move it in the right direction. I appreciate it.
Could I ask you a question, Councillor Dominguez?
Absolutely, Victor. How could I help?
Yeah, please. I'm very impressed with what you stated right now. Now, it looks as if that category of people mainly would address the people who work in the restaurants and those type of industries, because so therefore you have to be even more careful, because those people of like the 20, 25 and the 40-year-old are the ones that are actually serving these people, right? And they don't get tested regularly. So you could be at risk if you go to a restaurant. So should the restaurants be doing more testing so that so you don't get in contact, the patrons don't get in contact with the actual servers or the people who are actually serving them?
I think that's a great point and a great question, Commissioner, because that is something that we have been discussing this week with other cities, where how can we incentivize and how can we help businesses really push for either time off or push for testing during off hours. And it's going to really take a collaborative effort. And it's something that I'm even, again, working with other cities to see how we could implement this, because it's exactly it, right? People have to go to work, and there's certain industries that may see this population a little more, where they're not able to work from home. And it's our restaurant businesses, it's our supermarkets. And it's also our college students, right? I know I have a college student at home who hasn't, I had to beg her in the beginning to get tested, and she hasn't been tested since. But it's really, again, it's going to take all of us to really encourage not only those that fall in this age bracket, but all of us to encourage that testing. And we really need to look at who's operating now, and as a city, and maybe this is part of the plan of even this group, is how could we work together to really bring that message home to our businesses? And that's definitely something that I know I will be working on in the next week or so. So absolutely, I'll let you know.
Could we use this professional sports as an example? Because it looks as if they test those professional players on a regular basis, and if so many players of any one team they just cancel the game, or they just have to isolate themselves. So maybe we have to do the same for the restaurants and whatnot. If one or two people in the restaurants, maybe they have to be tested almost on a weekly basis, so that if one or two, maybe they have to change, maybe they have to stay home for maybe a couple of weeks until they test negative again. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's all things that we need to look into and definitely work with the county on. So thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great thought.
Councilmember Dominguez, real quick, as far as testing goes, and I completely agree with you on that, is there a place on the city website for testing locations? We actually have just brought a new testing location, which is in the Great Mall parking lot, which I'd like to try and get added to, if there is a list to promote that, so that people can come in. This is just a drive-through service that actually has, I think it's 2 days you can get your results back, and they do accept major insurances. So maybe if there's like a resource or something, I didn't know if that was something that the city was providing.
Absolutely, yes. We do have a list of sites. So there is a list that we as a city put out every Monday on the fire department's website and a Facebook page, and then we all share it. And that tells us the sites where the fire department in Milpitas is doing the free testing. If you do have insurance, such as Kaiser is one that does require you to go through their testing sites or through secondary sites like yourself that may take that insurance plan. It just all depends. I've learned it's very different per provider. But absolutely, if you are providing a testing site, there is a list, and just send me the information, and then I'll make sure that we add it. I know the Santa Clara County website also has a main list of all of the free testing sites that the county has available. But I think that would be a great addition to add, especially if you're testing your employees at the Great Mall and encouraging that. I think that is a great addition, and thank you so much for doing that.
Yep, we are doing that. So I will get that information over to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
So thank you, everybody. I know that we do have we have two more items tonight. I think what we'll end up doing is perhaps pushing that last item to the next meeting, but we have a really important item from Lehigh and Tegan of the city. So unless there's any other questions or thoughts, we can have Chair Norwood move forward.
Absolutely. I think, again, I want to thank the Stanford students for their effort, for their insight, for their perspective in terms of this work and willingness to share your opinion. Please make sure that we get the information for the November 18th, and we look forward to being in the audience, watching you guys do your thing. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Great job. You can stick around if you'd like.
No, don't do that. You got lives. You guys got lives. Go ahead. Do your thing. Next item on the agenda, Alex.
I am going to, oh, there it is. It's actually, you know what I think I'm going to do because of the time. Although, you know, we need to make this quick because this is going to go to council really sometime this month. So anyway, let's just go ahead and do this one, and then we'll get to the Parks Master Plan. So this has to do with every year we go to our Economic Development and Trade Commission to ensure that we have a work plan. This year is unique because of COVID. In May 5th of this year, our city council approved the first economic development strategy in 15 years. And we started this body of work before COVID existed. And so though we recognize that as we were entering COVID, we did a little bit of a pivot and reprioritized the mission of the Office of Economic Development to focus on business resiliency and business recovery, of which the last project was a part of, and obviously working with our council. So what you see before you is the current fiscal year's proposed work plan, and it's really going to focus around the economic development strategy. As you can see under that, Manufacturing Day has already happened, very successful, happened in October. We want to re-engage and really restart the International Trade and Commerce Program. It's become more and more important for us to focus on workforce development and education. You saw the numbers of unemployment rate increasing. Thankfully, they're trending downward, which is what we want. But we want to make sure that we are able to reskill and retool our local residents to be candidates for local jobs. And then we want to really focus more on branding and communications, as well as provide you more information on specific plans and development projects. And then we'd like to be creative and innovative. There are many companies locally that we can partner with through what is known as a demonstration project policy. And so that is obviously a very quick overview of the work plan. We are months into the existing fiscal year. We have fewer items than we typically would, and that's because we are really focusing on implementation of the economic development strategy. With that, I'll hand it back to our chair, Chair Norwood.
Thank you, Alex. I know that was, I would potentially like to recommend that at the next board meeting, we bring this back so it will allow commissioners to dive into any one of these particular things that they may want to get into a bit more so that we can be mindful of the time. And then we can move on to the next item.
So Chair Norwood, if I may, I don't know if Renee Lorenzen is on, but I believe she's scheduled to go in front of council on all of the commission's work plans this month. So if we could have a discussion and
So if you're looking for, I guess I'm just looking for the conversation to come back at this point, because the timeline is, if you're looking for a motion, is that what you're looking for, Alex?
This is an action item, so we would be looking for a motion.
Is there a motion?
If we don't have a motion, then perhaps it may stall all the other commission work plans to get in front of council this month.
Understood. No worries. Is there a motion?
So moved. This Councilman Member McNeil.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion. Is a second. Is this a requirement for a roll call, or is this a?
Yes, Nicole will help with the individual commissioner roll call.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, so can I start with Chair Norwood?
Yes. Yay.
Vice Chair McNeil?
Yes.
Could you repeat the motion again to make sure that everybody knows what they're voting for?
The motion is to approve the Economic Development and Trade Commission work plan for 2020.
Okay, good. Okay, I have it in front of me right now. Thanks. Okay.
All right, Commissioner Rice?
Yay, yes, I would like to move forward.
Okay, Commissioner Mundra?
Yes.
Commissioner San Vicente?
Yeah.
And lastly, Commissioner Aswapi?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Right, so now that you have the motion that carries unanimously again, we do still have the option to bring this back to talk about it a little bit, because obviously you have a number of items that are here that we didn't get a chance to unpack a bit more, or are you providing us a report on each of these in more detail?
Chair Norwood, yes, we would really actually appreciate having that opportunity to unpack every one of these, and just to give you a better idea of what we plan on doing toward the end of the current fiscal year, which is June. Now, some of the items that are listed on this work plan, we have already been doing, implementing. Some we have accomplished already, and others are just in motion. So yes, sir, we'd like to continue to have that conversation with you all. So thank you.
I'll never be served, so let's not even open that door. I'll never be served. So, all right, next item on the agenda.
So it's the Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Awesome. We're looking for the Parks and Master Plan update. Go ahead.
Good evening, Councilwoman Dominguez, chairs and commissioners, and thanks a lot for moving our items up, Alex. So my name is Liha Im, an associate civil engineer with Engineering Department, Design and Construction Divisions. And I am also the project manager for the Park and Recreation Master Plan update. So Gate and Associate Consultant has been retained by the city to assist with this update. And they will be presenting, providing the presentations to the commissions of the progress that we have been complete so far. And before I pass this to our consultant, allow me to give you some background of these projects. So the Park and Recreation Master Plan update is in the approved 2020 and 2025 capital improvement program. These projects provide an update to the existing 2008 Park and Recreation Master Plan. And the document will be prepared in collaboration with the General Plan Update, Metro Specific Plan Update, and Biennial Master Plan Update. The update will also include the assessments of the recreations and community service program and fee. So with that, I'm gonna turn this over to Melanie O'Sullivan with Gate and Associate, and she's the project managers for these projects. So Mike, can you please help unmute Melanie so that she can start this presentation? Thank you.
I think I'm good. Good evening, commissioners, councilwomen. Thank you for taking us, moving us up so we could present to you tonight. I'm Melanie O'Sullivan. I'm with Gates and Associates. I am an associate principal at Gates and Associates, and we are planners, landscape architects, and urban designers in San Ramon, and now from our homes for the time being. We have been hired by the city to work on the Park and Recreation Master Plan update. The purpose of this project is to assess the existing city parks, facilities, and programs, as well as events, review fee structure, and explore cost recovery targets for programs, engage community for meaningful input, create a roadmap to guide future improvements to existing parks, planned parks, and programs and events. We recently presented at council, and they asked us to present at all of the various commissions and councils within the city. So you're our first stop. So thanks for having us. Next slide, please. So a little bit of planning context. Currently, the Milpitas General Plan is also being updated and worked on. It's a bit ahead of us. And there are several park and recreation facility guiding principles included in that master plan or in that general plan that relate specifically to parks, programs, and events. One is to provide a park and recreation system designed to serve the needs of all residents in the community. And 2, cooperate with other agencies such as the county and Milpitas Unified School District to provide recreational opportunities in residents. I think it goes without saying that we all know the value of parks and recreation and programs to the economic viability of a city. So what we plan for this master plan update will just strengthen what you already have started in Milpitas. Next slide, please. Other plans and studies currently happening, like I mentioned, there's the general plan update. There's also the Milpitas Metro specific plan, the bikeway and pedestrian master plan and trails master plan. And then what we are building upon is the 2008 Parks and Recreation master plan. And all of these efforts, we've had numerous coordination meetings so that we are a coordinated effort, and what we're planning and all these different documents really speak to each other and to the viability of these moving forward. Next slide, please. So in your 2008 Parks and Recreation Master Plan, over $26 million of improvements over the last 12 years have been implemented. New synthetic fields, pool rehab, and upgraded locker rooms at the Milpitas Sports Center, a new skate park with restrooms and a concession building, Sandalwood Park redesign, Creighton Park redesign. There's some building redesign and retrofit at Higuera Adobe Park, and then also major improvements to Aviso, Adobe, Pinewood, Cardoza, and Calais Oriente Parks. So you guys have made numerous strides in the last 12 years on implementing and putting together what was put in that master plan initially. And we just want to build upon that and plan for the next 10 years. Next slide, please. So efforts to date. We have already completed the existing conditions assessment. So 36 parks and 6 facilities. We go to each one, we look and see what you have. You catalog it, we catalog its current state. Is it good, fair, bad? Does it need to be replaced or is it new? We've looked at demographics as far as diversity and population growth. As far as benchmarking, there are several, you can see Cupertino, Dublin, Mountain View, and Redwood City, kind of comparable cities and agencies that we use to kind of see where Milpitas sits. It's really important to note that Milpitas is truly uniquely Milpitas. So while we don't want to be Cupertino or be Redwood City, this nice benchmark of, kind of comparison allows us to see where we're at and then decide where we want to go. Next slide, please. So we have also completed, I guess, a round and a half of community engagement. In round 1, we were able to get some pre-COVID events in where we were in person. It was really great. We had a pop-up booth at the tree lighting event. We had another pop-up booth at the Lunar New Year event. I think and we had an online survey going at the same time. I think we touched around 750 people. So that's a really great turnout. And so that lasted through about April. And then we, kind of COVID hit and we took on a round 2 in more of a virtual sense. So we have had several focus groups and we've had a couple town halls, as well as an online survey that is currently open that I'm going to have a link to at the end here that we would implore you all to go and take and send to your friends. It's important to note that in round 1, we really look at what is the vision for our parks and recreation programs. It's what do you have and what do you want? And then in round 2, it's a little, deeper of a dive. It's a funnel that we slowly get to. There are 2 more rounds of outreach, but it's where we confirm, clarify, and start to prioritize what the community wants. Next slide, please. So round 1 findings. So like I said, what do you like? What do you want? 700 plus participants. The survey, as well as the in-person materials, were available in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. Kind of the heavy hitters and things that kind of rose to the top. People like your playgrounds, your swim facility, trails and pathways, sports fields, open space, picnic areas, and barbecue areas. What they would like to see added or made better: more updated playgrounds, more community events, more indoor sports, exercise station, better park lighting, community gardens, and a dedicated teen space. Next slide, please. And so then in round 2, we take kind of those, top wants and likes and needs and kind of drill down a little bit further. So we confirm, clarify, and prioritize. So like I said, because this was a COVID-rich environment that we are in right now, we had an online survey and an interactive map. There were 418 unique participants. This survey has both a linear survey of questions, as well as you can see in the bottom, kind of a pinnable map. So you can give specific input on a specific park. Maybe you use the park closest to you, so you want to, say you want a shade structure there. It really allows the participants to give feedback where they feel it's most valuable to them. We also completed 4 focus groups, which we found to be highly valuable. We'll get a little into that in another slide, but we talked to teens, new residents, social services, as well as sports groups. And then we hosted 2 virtual town halls, one on both last month, one on the 10th and one on the 14th, one on a Saturday in the morning and one, I believe, on a Wednesday in the evening, to try to appeal to, different audiences and availabilities. Next slide. So focus group trends, like I said, these were great. These were maybe between 10 and 25 people in each focus group, depending on the topic. As far as organized sports, they want amenities, access, parking, storage, and restrooms. Obviously, if you have a type of an organized sport, those are very important. Expand usability, lighting allows for longer usability, synthetic turf as well. Explore further joint use opportunities with school sites, and then collaboration. We heard this, just every person on that focus group was just into sharing, and they were open to working with each other and other groups to make everyone, have access to what they need. So it was a really great experience, and we're going to really work hard to make sure that everyone gets their needs met. New residents. So a lot of your newer development, especially in the newer metro specific plan, are going to be a bit denser in housing. And so we really wanted to talk to them about what they want to see in parks near them and in their new area. And so they really see parks as opportunities for neighbor interaction. It's essentially their backyards. So they want to be able to go out and meet their neighbors and hang out and get to know one another, whether that's group exercise or planned activities. Reduce competition for facilities, maybe more scheduling options for like tennis courts and things like that. And then also to add amenities. Convenience, so they want it close by and they want it easily. Walkability is a big thing. Rental space, as far as permit parking, building access, and group picnic shelters, so they are able to, they know there will be access for them when they go if they can rent it ahead of time. Teens, so informal uses geared towards teens. Improve aging, unattractive parks with Wi-Fi, cooler site furniture, right? Make them more attractive to want to, to use. They were really into sustainability and a more natural feel, which we thought was really interesting. There's often use conflicts, like can they be there? Are they welcome? So, how do we bridge the gap between the current users and kind of the teens who want to hang out and be there? Social activities, more food trucks or astronomy nights, something that gives them a reason to go to the parks. Safety concerns, this comes more from their parents, wanting to know they're safe if they're in the parks after school and whatnot. And then summer usage. So teens want to use the parks in the summer. It's when they're not in school. So they'd like, more shade structures, even like a splash pad or park or something like that. Summer type activities geared towards teens. The last focus group we held was social services and inclusion. This one was really interesting as well. There's a need and a desire for intergenerational events and programs, whether that's between like teens and seniors partnering together for activities, something like that. They really feel a need for inclusive playgrounds and parks, staff training for special need participants in their programs and events, communities and city liaisons for underreached groups. So how do we get the word out to underreached groups that there are programs and there are events that they're welcome to come to, obviously, and we want them to come to. Separate teen and senior facilities, and then also partner with local inclusion groups to really kind of bring that into the city so that everyone feels welcome in the programs and events. Next slide. So then from the 2 town halls, we have learned there's a growth in interest in cricket. We've heard that a lot. So we're really looking at where cricket can find a home. Inclusive playgrounds, amenities, and parks. So for all users and abilities, classes on the weekends and weeknights, new programs geared towards teens, individuals with developmental delays, possibly dog training. We hear that because of COVID, a lot of families have adopted dogs. So dog training is a want. Cycling, cooking, equine therapy, and even more outdoor movies in the parks. Another big one is connectivity to other parks and trails. People want to be able to walk or bike and get around easily and quickly between parks. Another one that wasn't on here that was Wi-Fi. We hear that a lot. People want their parks connected, especially now in kind of the virtual age we're in. You want to be able to take your laptop or iPad out there and connect into Wi-Fi and do some work outside. Next slide. Community input. So here are the current engagement opportunities. So I ask you all to visit our project website at milpitasparksrecreationmasterplan.org. It's a lot to type in, but once you do it, you don't have to do it again. Your computer remembers. And then we also ask that you take the online survey and possibly give input on the park you use or a park you want to use more, or a park you know a lot about, so that we can continue to gather information. One thing I also didn't mention that we have done up to this point is we have another consultant, Matrix Consulting, and they have been looking at cost recovery options for your programs. So that's another real big part of this master plan effort, and is kind of in the, I guess it's near the end of its process. Next slide. All right, so the next steps. We want to identify joint use opportunities and public-private partnership opportunities. So a lot of this may have to do with school sites or county sites or VTA sites that possibly could be used for parkland and park use. We want to finalize our prioritization criteria. So that's how we really rank what happens at what parks, and that's all based on community input and what can be done in dollars. We will come up with our draft recommendations for the parks and the park and program system. We will prepare an administrative draft of the master plan with short, medium, and long-term project recommendations. We will roll out community outreach round 3. What are priorities? What are our priorities? So that's where we kind of look at our prioritization criteria and our draft recommendations and our short, medium, and long-term recommendations, and ask the community, does this align with what you want? And then further our cost analysis and recommendations review. So we're looking at programs and what they cost. And just as we're benchmarking parks and parkland, we're also benchmarking Milpitas against other city programs and what they offer as far as fees and costs. Next slide. So that's it. I tried to keep it short. What we would love to hear from you is what you want out of this. If there's something I've missed, if you think there's someone else we need to talk to, some other avenue we need to explore, now's your time. We'd love to hear it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
All these things that you mentioned there, these are post-COVID, right? Because right now, the parks, it'd be too, what you call it, I'd say risky to go to a park and spread COVID. You know what I mean? So you're talking about post-COVID and all these cases.
We're planning for the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, well, and
post-COVID.
what's funny, you really hit it. A lot of people, there's a fair amount of people in the surveys have been like, why are we doing this? We don't care about parks right now. We can't go to them. But we think it's really important that we are going to come out of COVID and you are going to want to use parks, and people value parks even more now because we should get outside more, and it's what we can do, right, in a quote unquote safe environment. So we really do want to make sure we're planning for that post-COVID world, and so that's why we're doing this now.
And the other thing, when you talk about teens, are you talking about real teens, or because some kids they need to be supervised, because sometimes you go to these parks and these kids are not really supervised, and they're unruly and they have no. So there should be what you call it, some sort of a way to decide who is a responsible teen and who is not a responsible teen, or if people like 12 years old, they think that they're teenagers, and you know what I mean. So are they real teens, or is this pre-teens? You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah, the teens we talked to were like 16, 17, 18.
That's what I'm saying. So
the ones whose parents would feel comfortable with them. Well, that was one of their concerns, is their parents don't currently feel comfortable, but would feel more comfortable with them going with a group of friends to an organized event in a park or something. Yes.
Okay. Unsupervised.
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah. Okay.
But maybe there's something for parents and they all go together. I mean, this is
Okay.
age of multi-generational use. So yeah.
I'd like to add to the I'd like to add or ask that because in Milpitas, historically, a lot of the sports programs that are run by the city are feeder programs that go into the high school. And so recognizing the programs that do the early developmental stuff that actually feeds into the middle school and the high school. There's definitely basketball. There is Little League baseball. There is softball. The school district, I know they're putting in some track and fields because those are feeders into the high school. So having a chance to get communication into understanding what are the feeder programs where kids have the opportunity to develop in those locations in the city that feed into the education system or what they could possibly do at high school.
Okay. That's great.
I did have a question. So you had mentioned your next steps. What is your timetable? I might have missed that for your next steps that you listed.
Well, we're hoping to have the master plan go before council, I believe, in May, June, July, somewhere around there. Lehack, you might have to step in. It's changed a little bit because of COVID.
I think we're planning to bring it back to the council sometime in spring 2021, just to give another update on that and maybe present the draft recommendations.
Yeah, round 3. So council did ask us to come back sooner than I think we had anticipated, just to share some more data. And so that will likely happen in early or first quarter 2021.
I'm on my.
So that'll probably be like round 3.
On my meeting.
So your next steps that you listed in your slide will not be your next steps until after it is approved then by the council, because the consolidation of multi-use facilities, such as schools and those other things that you listed on that next to last slide. You won't
Those will all happen in the first half of next year before we go. Well, so we'll go back to council with our draft recommendations in early 2021, and then we'll have a draft and everything, and then we'll go for acceptance in mid 2021.
Okay. But
So
that next to last slide,
I listed and next steps will take place in the next like 3 to 5 months.
okay, thank you.
While we're waiting for the commission. Oh, does anybody else have anything to say? I was going to add a thought. Okay, I'll just go ahead. I'm really glad and pleased to have other city departments come before you as our commission, because there's a lot of intersectionality and we really are an ecosystem for us in economic development. Everyone at the city is an ambassador of this community. And by making our parks and our trails and recreation activities open to everyone, it's increasing the quality of life for everyone. So my question really has to do with, there are parks that are open to everyone and inclusive to everyone, all abilities, all ages, and everybody is welcome. And perhaps you probably know this in Palo Alto and in Mountain View, there's the Magical Bridge Foundation. And these parks are expensive, but what it does for a community, it really is inclusive and it's open to everyone. And I'm only bringing it up because there is a Magical Bridge Foundation. Perhaps there's an opportunity for the city to reach out to the corporate community to see if there's an opportunity for sponsorships. And I'm sure it's on your list of things to do. I know that our Councilmember Dominguez has thought about this in the past, so I'm bringing it up as a personal and professional thought, but I know that she too has shared that with a large business in town. And so something for you to think about. And obviously the Office of Economic Development is here in partnership with you all if you need us.
Yes, thank you. We totally recognize that public-private partnerships are going to be just necessary in our current climate, especially post-COVID. I'm sorry, my dog is howling in the background right as I want to talk. But yeah, we're going to explore those avenues, and we've done a couple all-inclusive playgrounds, so we're a little bit familiar with what it takes to get that done. And we'll want to make sure we include that in the master plan so that you guys have a roadmap for getting something like that in, because they're wonderful.
Excellent. And it'll be part of our brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just learned that we do have a member of the public that would like to make a comment. So Chair Norwood, if we can do that.
We have a comment from a member of the public. Absolutely.
Nicole, can you please assist?
Yes, we have Urvish Mehta.
Thank you very much, Chair Chris Norwood, all the commissioner, city staff, Alex, and as well as Nicole. Thank you very much again for the opportunity to speak. I wanted to mention that I've been participating in the community engagement presentation of Gates and Associates. I think there's been a lot of aspects that has been covered as a part of Parks and Recreational Committee along with the RENE. I wanted to mention that there are quite a few programs. They are being considered as a part of a youth development and as well as school programs development. I would also like to suggest that the programs they are currently being considered if also the city council as well as all the commissioners can also consider that how these programs be promoted at the corporate level as well as providing a more means to the youth to represent the city of Milpitas at either at the city level as well as county level or state level. That would be something really something would be really helpful to the youth. So thank you again for consideration.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Are there any other comments from the public?
No, Urvish was the single comment.
Okay. Alex, based on the time, are there any other items or any other comments from the commissioners?
So Chair Norwood, we do have one more item we're going to push forward, as we said. No comments from staff unless Nicole, Daniel, Margaret, any thoughts?
No.
None for me. This is Daniel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Norwood.
So with that said, is there a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn. I can first that. It's Commissioner Rice.
I can second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Rice. We have a second from Commissioner Deepak.
Yes.
Nicole, do your thing.
Yes. Let's see. Can I have Chair Norwood, please?
Yay.
Vice Chair McNeil?
Yay.
Commissioner Rice?
Yay.
Commissioner Mundra? Oh, Commissioner Mundra, I think you're muted.
You're muted.
You said no.
Sorry about that. Yay.
No worries. Okay, thank you. Commissioner San Vicente?
Yeah.
And lastly, Commissioner Aswapi.
Yeah.
Perfect. Motion carries unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you. Good
Be
meeting.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Congrats
Thank
to
you.
Chair Norwood and Co-Chair.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
What was the
Thank you.
background?
Right.
Congratulations.